Welcome back to Investing Talk podcast.
Today, we're looking at a name that's been lighting up trading screens.
Absolutely. We are focusing on Northern Dynasty Minerals. And really, the question everyone's asking is this a good time to buy?
Especially after the kind of move it's had recently.
Exactly. I mean, we're talking a 671% jump above recent lows in just the past month. So we need to figure out, does this run still have legs? Before we get into all that volatility, please do remember to subscribe, like, and comment on this analysis. It really helps us out.
And yeah, if there's another company you're curious about, just drop it in the comments below. We do look at those suggestions.
We definitely do. Okay, so let's unpack the situation. It's kind of fascinating. A development stage mining company, no real revenue to speak of, but it's grabbing all this attention. Why? What's the story here?
Well, the core of it, the reason for all the buzz, is what they own. Northern Dynasty Minerals holds 100% of the Pebble project up in Alaska.
Yeah.
And you have to understand the scale here. It's genuinely one of the world's biggest undeveloped resources of copper, gold, molybdenum.
Yeah.
We're talking 274 square miles.
Wow.
That asset, that massive untouched North American supply of critical metals, that's their whole game. It's their competitive moat, if you like. It's the ultimate resource play. The company's value is basically tied to whether they can actually get permission to mine it.
So, huge potential asset, but currently zero production, zero revenue. Let's look at the financials then, because even with a story like this, you can't completely ignore the numbers, right?
Yes.
What does the balance sheet actually tell us?
Well, it tells us exactly what you'd expect for a company at this stage. No significant operating revenues coming in.
Okay.
And the latest figures, trailing 12 months, show a net loss of about negative $58.27 million USD. Operating cash flow is also negative.
Now, for someone maybe not familiar with mining stocks, that sounds pretty bad. A $58 million loss. Why isn't that a massive red flag sending people running?
Because, that loss isn't from failing operations. It's from spending. They're pouring money into engineering studies, environmental work, and, crucially, the legal battles. It's CapEx, essentially.
Ah, okay.
What really matters at this stage is, do they have the cash to keep fighting? Historically, they've actually kept long-term debt pretty low, which is good.
Right.
But the key event recently, the thing that probably helped spark some confidence, was back in October 2025.
What happened then? You mentioned a payment.
Yeah, they received a significant $12 million payment. It's part of a royalty agreement they have. Now, this isn't revenue from mining, but it's vital cash.
Got it. A cash injection.
Exactly. It boosted their near-term liquidity, gave them runway, breathing room to keep pushing on the permits, and importantly, fund those ongoing legal challenges against the EPA. That payment sort of signaled their finance to stay in the fight for a while longer.
Okay, so they got a bit of a lifeline, financially speaking. But like you said, they're burning through cash. But this isn't really a fundamental story right now, is it? It feels much more like momentum, driven by hope and headlines.
Oh, absolutely.
So let's talk about the technicals, because the price action, it's been pretty wild.
Wild is definitely the word. That 671% surge we mentioned, that tells you the market thinks something fundamental might be shifting. And it wasn't slow and steady. We saw these huge daily pops, like 19% on October 6th, another 17.5% on October 13th, just massive reactions.
Okay, but hang on. This stock has a history, right?
Yeah.
Big spikes, followed by big drops when regulatory news goes bad. How do we know this isn't just, speculative froth that could disappear overnight?
That's the key question. And you look at the technical health indicators. Surprisingly, the move looks pretty solid from that perspective. The price is currently well above its 50-day moving average, which is around $1.01, and also above the 200-day, sitting near nearly 99.
And that's significant because
For such a volatile name, being above both those key long-term averages suggests the bullish move has some real conviction behind it, not just day traders jumping in and out. It points to potentially stronger hands holding.
What about volume? Are more people trading it? Is the big money involved?
Yes, the volume is really interesting here. On October 14th, for instance, volume spiked something like 183% compared to the day before.
Wow.
That kind of volume surge suggests real engagement, probably a mix of motivated retail investors and likely some institutional players taking positions too. It shows serious capital is willing to bet on this outcome despite the risks.
High volume technical strength. So what are the analysts saying? Are they buying into this rally?
Well, the sentiment among the analysts covering it is certainly positive. Right now, there are two analysts, and both have strong buy ratings on the stock.
Both. Strong buys.
Yep. And the consensus 12-month price target is quite optimistic, sitting at $2.50. HES Wainwright, for example, reiterated their buy rating and that $2.50 target back in July 2025.
So they're expecting more upside.
They are. And looking at the current charts and momentum, some technical analysts are projecting a bullish trading range for the next, say, 3 months, somewhere between $2.20 and $2.80. That suggests the market is anticipating positive news fairly soon.
Which brings us right back to the core issue, doesn't it? The legal and regulatory battle. This stock isn't trading on copper prices today. It's trading on the hope of overturning that EPA veto on the Pebble project.
Absolutely. That's the whole story right now.
So what are the key developments there? What's fueling this recent optimism?
The biggest recent move was in October 2025. Northern Dynasty filed what's called a summary judgment brief in the Alaska federal court.
Okay, what does that mean exactly?
Basically, they're asking the court to make a decision quickly without a full, lengthy trial. They're arguing that the EPA's decision to veto the project was fundamentally illegal. They claim it was arbitrary and went against specific laws they believe protect the project.
So a bold legal move. Why now?
A key part of their argument leans on recent Supreme Court decisions. Specifically, guidance that narrowed the definition of what wetlands the federal government can regulate under the Clean Water Act.
I see.
Northern Dynasty is essentially saying, look, based on what the Supreme Court just clarified, the EPA went way beyond its authority when it vetoed our project. If a judge agrees with that argument, well, that could potentially dismantle the biggest regulatory roadblock they face.
That certainly explains the excitement, but I also heard the court case was paused. How does that fit with them filing this aggressive brief?
It's an interesting situation. The actual litigation, the back-and-forth lawsuit with the EPA, was temporarily put on hold. The legal term is abeyance. That pause is scheduled to last until July 2026.
Why pause it if they're pushing for a quick ruling?
The stated reason for the pause is to allow for serious settlement negotiations to happen, and many stakeholders are reading that very positively. The fact that the government agencies seem willing to actually negotiate rather than just fight it out in court is seen as perhaps the best sign yet that some kind of resolution might be possible.
Okay, so there's this dual-track aggressive legal challenge combined with behind-the-scenes negotiation potential. This makes timing crucial. What are the key dates investors should circle on their calendars, say, in the next few months?
Right. Catalysts are everything here. In the very near term, November 14th, 2025, that's when their Q3 2025 earnings are expected.
But they don't have earnings, right?
Exactly. No one's looking for revenue.
Yeah.
What they will be looking for is any update in a management discussion, clues about permitting progress, their financial runway, and critically, any hints about how those settlement talks are going.
Got it. And on the legal calendar?
January 2nd, 2026. That's the deadline, or the expected date anyway, for the Department of Justice, which represents the EPA in court, to file their response to Northern Dynasty's summary judgment brief.
So that's when we hear the government's counter-argument.
Precisely. That filing will be really telling. It could show how strongly they intend to defend the veto, or maybe signal some wiggle room.
And speaking of wiggle room, that volume spike you mentioned, it's probably also fueled by rumors, right? What's the chatter?
Oh yeah, the rumor mill is definitely churning. One big one is the idea of a fast-track settlement. Maybe the EPA decides to withdraw the veto before that January court deadline, possibly to avoid a potentially awkward loss in court given the Supreme Court angle.
Preemptive move?
Could be. The other persistent rumor is about a strategic partner. The idea that a major global mining company or even a big tech firm desperate for secure copper supply might step in with a joint venture. That would bring cash, credibility, maybe even political clout.
Okay, so that covers the near-term catalysts. If they navigate that successfully, if they actually get regulatory clarity, what's the big long-term prize here? Why fight so hard for so long?
The ultimate prize is simple: getting the green light, full regulatory approval. That would transform the company overnight from a development play into, potentially, a major mining producer. The market would have to completely revalue it based on the sheer size of that resource.
And the timing in the broader market helps too.
Absolutely. There's huge macro support. Copper prices have been strong, driven by the whole global electrification trend, EVs, renewable energy infrastructure, upgrading grids. North American supply is seen as particularly valuable and stable. And then you have gold, which continues to act as a hedge against inflation and uncertainty. Pebble sits right at the nexus of those major trends.
It sounds incredibly compelling, but we have to talk about the risks. They seem just as significant as the potential reward. What are the main dangers for someone looking at this stock now?
The risks are definitely profound. The number one risk is simply the fact that it's still a development stage company. No revenue coming in. Its entire future hinges on clearing those regulatory hurdles.
So the payment risk overshadows everything else.
Without a doubt. Environmental opposition is intense and well organized. Permitting processes, even if approved, are long, complex, and prone to delays. And there's always the chance that the veto or some other major roadblock ultimately holds. That's the existential threat.
And even if they get the main EPA permit, that's not the end of the road, is it?
Not at all. There would still be numerous state and local permits, financing challenges, engineering complexities. It's a long path to actually producing metal. And then you have the external risks.
Like what?
Mining is notoriously cyclical. Commodity prices go up and down. If there's a global recession and copper prices tank, the economics of even a giant project like Pebble could look much less attractive, regardless of permits. You really need supportive metal prices, too.
Okay, so putting it all together, the massive strategic asset, that recent cash injection, the incredible price surge, the active legal fight using new Supreme Court precedent, the settlement talks, those strong buy ratings. How do you synthesize this? What's the overall investment thesis here?
I'd say the overall outlook feels cautiously bullish right now. Maybe an 8 out of 10 on the bullish scale, but with very high risk acknowledged.
An 8 out of 10. Why so high, given the risks?
Because the key factors are aligning positively at the moment. You have undisputed control of a world-class strategic asset in North America. You have recent financial strengthening giving them runway. You have clear signs of potential progress on the regulatory front, both the aggressive legal push and the willingness to negotiate. And crucially, the technicals, the price action, the volume, are confirming that the market is taking this potential shift very seriously.
So who is the stock for then? Clearly not for everyone.
Definitely not. It's really suitable for two types of investors, I think. Short-term traders looking to play those upcoming catalyst dates, the earnings update, the DOJ response, and then medium to long-term investors who understand the risks but are willing to be patient, betting on the ultimate value unlock if, and it's a big if, they achieve full permitting success down the road.
Right. It's a pure bet on that regulatory outcome, not on quarterly performance.
Exactly. You're investing in the outcome of legal briefs and political negotiations, not sales figures.
So wrapping up, what this means for you, the listener, is that Northern Dynasty Minerals represents a classic high-risk, high-reward scenario. The potential payoff is enormous, but it all hinges on clearing those significant legal and regulatory hurdles. It's a story entirely about the potential value buried in that Alaskan ground.
Which leads to, I think, the really provocative question to ponder. If they do manage to overturn that EPA veto, if the Pebble project actually moves forward, this asset could become a major reliable source of vital metals like copper and gold. In a world pushing hard towards electrification, increasingly concerned about supply chain security, especially for North American sources, what would the market ultimately be willing to pay for that kind of reliable supply? And how drastically could that re-rate this company's future?
Something to definitely think about, a huge potential shift. Thank you for joining us for this look at Northern Dynasty Minerals. We'll catch you next time on Investing Talk Podcast.